Hello, everybody. Welcome back to SUBTA Studios. I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm Paul Chambers, co-founder and CEO of SUBTA, the Subscription Trade Association, and our conference, SubSummit. And I'm super excited to dive into this topic today because it's one that I have a lot of mixed emotions about. And I'll tell you why here in a second. But I'm going to welcome my guest, Dominic Leidy, president of the Office Gurus, affectionately sometimes known as TOG, T-O-G, right, Dominic?
Right, absolutely.
Does it go TOG or TOG? Which one is it?
TOG.
TOG. All right, never TOG, but it's all right. So excited to have you here today because we are going to talk about outsourcing your customer service, what that means, why, how you can get there. And I'll tell you why I have mixed emotions about this, because when we used to run the Gentleman's Box, the subscription box we had before we built SubSummit and everything, customer service was sometimes like the bane of my existence. There are times where I enjoyed it, and there are times where it's like, oh my gosh, this is so much work and everything goes into it. And eventually, like, you find these great solutions out there. So first of all, tell us, to get us started and kind of queued up here, a little bit more about the Office Gurus and what you do there.
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Paul, for the intro. I'm Dominic Leidy. I'm the president of the Office Gurus. The Office Gurus, we're a wholly owned subsidiary of a 103-year-old publicly traded company, which is the Superior Group of Companies, who trade under the symbol SGC on the NASDAQ. And the Office Gurus represents the BPO division for the group. We have call centers in Florida, El Salvador, Belize, Jamaica, and the Dominican Republic.
Awesome. All nice, warm places. So when you got to go visit somewhere, it's great, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not bad travel.
Not bad at all. So let's talk a little bit about why somebody would outsource their customer service and what that means specifically.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the primary driver today, for companies who are exploring the possibility of outsourcing, are the rising costs here in the United States, and the challenges companies are having hiring and retaining affordable labor. Companies today are under immense pressure. You mentioned some of it earlier, the vein of your existence with customer care. It's no longer a nice to have to deliver an exceptional customer experience. It's really a necessity, if companies want to thrive and grow their businesses. And it all starts with the people. What nearshore outsourcing provides the companies is access, to a highly educated talent pool who consider working in the contact center, a career opportunity. When companies find the right partner, there's a lot of other benefits that they're going to take advantage of too, not just the talented labor pool at a reduced cost, but things that you mentioned, like, best-in-class technologies, reporting, ancillary support from departments like workforce management, quality assurance, business intelligence, that are all focused on, optimizing to capitalize on efficiencies and improving that CSAT and customer effort.
Everything you touch base on there really pushes into what we're seeing as a common theme across the subscription space right now, and that's fostering really good relationships, because those relationships really help with retention. They build on that acquisition, and there's so much there. But before we dive a little bit further into that, I want to go back to something you mentioned. You mentioned nearshore as you were describing a little bit. For those that aren't familiar with this space yet, can you tell me what nearshore means?
Yeah, so in the outsourcing vernacular, nearshore, means close to the U.S.
Okay.
And it generally refers to outsourcing to places like the Caribbean, Latin America, or maybe Canada. Another term you'll often hear is offshoring. And offshoring generally means places that are far away from the U.S. Like India, the Philippines, South Africa, places like that.
And you guys are primarily, or you all entirely, a nearshore facility?
Yeah, we're all nearshore, and we have one domestic call center too in Florida. And the main reason we chose nearshore is one, this partnership that I keep talking about, and I'm sure we're going to talk about as the interview goes on. It's important for our customers to come visit us. So nearshore, it's a lot easier to travel to the destinations I mentioned earlier than halfway across the world to say India, the Philippines, or places like South Africa. The other benefit of nearshore is the cultural affinity to the U.S. When you talk to agents who are in our buildings, many of them grew up in the U.S. or lived in the U.S. or have family members who live in the U.S. So they've been here, where when you talk to a lot of centers that are offshore, a lot of times what they share is their agents watch U.S. television, listen to U.S. music. But that's different than actually being here and being in the States and talking to people. And those things come out when you have to have, off scripted conversations or build rapport or laugh at a joke or,
Yeah.
create empathy. It's all really important in that overall customer experience.
Yeah, and that's a really nice benefit of that, and in the same time zone probably oftentimes as well?
Yeah, central or mountain time zone throughout the year. Absolutely.
So you said a couple things already that kind of ease a few concerns that would immediately start to come to my mind with outsourcing my customer service. Establishing that relationship with my customers. If I'm going to outsource this to somebody else, I want to make sure they're establishing just as strong of a relationship as I am. What are some of the other, things that you guys do to assure that high quality customer care is being given?
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier, it can be scary. We realize that. There's a lot of angst, and uncertainty involved in turning over such an important customer facing function, to a third party. And it goes back to what I said initially, it all starts with finding, the right partner. It all begins right there, and it's important for the two companies to come together, and understand each other's culture first off and make sure that's a good fit. And we do that at the office groups by sending our teams to our clients' offices so they get a sense of that culture and how they want their customers treated firsthand. And then, of course, bringing our prospective clients to our building so they can meet our people, walk the floor, and really meet the people that are going to be driving performance, on a daily basis. It's definitely not, an outsourcing relationship is not a set it and forget it.
Yeah.
It requires a level of trust, that you can only develop through collaboration and transparency. And that's when the quality customer service, that's how it starts. It starts there.
What's that, have you found that tipping point or that magical moment where it's like, okay, we need to, for companies where they start to say, we really need to look at outsourcing some of this and find a partner to help us with our customer service?
Yeah, that's a good question, Paul. I think the ultimate tipping point would have to be when the company just can't deliver the customer experience it needs, to attract and retain customers anymore. This just puts a great deal of stress and strain on the organization, and it creates a distraction. When the company is constantly battling turnover or challenges with recruiting, or they can't find the bandwidth to take care of all those initial training classes or provide their existing group with the up training and residual training that they need. You have employee issues that put a strain on HR. You have technology challenges. There's so much, and these are things that keep companies from being able to focus on what matters most, their core competencies. And it can just turn into a vicious cycle if they don't find a solution.
Yeah, yeah, and there's so much time and energy put into that. I would imagine some companies have an in-house as well as that outsourcing solution. So they've got your nearshore and they have their own in-house team. Tell me how that works. Do you see a lot of companies doing that as well?
We do, and when we started selling our services back in 2008, no one knew who the Office Gurus was. We built our business 100% organically, so we didn't go out and acquire new businesses. So we call those engagements, champion challengers, where that's how we got our foot in the door. We were talking to prospective clients saying, hey, give us a shot, give us a pilot program where we can compete head to head with your in-house center or your incumbent outsourcer. And this is a model you have to have a lot of hunger. We're a pretty competitive group at the Office Gurus, and we have an unbelievable track record, of excelling in champion challenger engagements. And it's a great model for companies to explore. The competition between the two sites, whether it's against their in-house or another outsourcer, it raises the bar for both entities in terms of performance. It takes it up another notch. And when that happens, the company and its customers always win.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're all looking out for the best interests of the customer.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. Especially when the company shares the results and creates that competition between the two partners. That's when things really, and then you start sharing best practices. I mean, it's a great model.
so you mentioned best practices, and that was one of the things that kind of came to mind as we've been talking about this. Are there some best practices that you recommend for somebody who's out there exploring a partner, exploring a new partner? You mentioned earlier going to meet them, and I think that's extremely important in making that trip. I know when we outsourced our customer service back in the day, we just had done some phone calls and talked to some people, but meeting them, I bet is really impactful. Are there any other things that come to mind for you in terms of like, hey, you need to be considering this or doing that?
Yeah, I think they have to go in with what I said before. I think meeting them, getting to know the companies, make sure there's good alignment there. But they have to realize that it's a collaboration. It's not you
Yeah.
just pick an outsourcer and say, here's how we want customer service handled, and you're off. It takes a lot of collaboration, and it starts with staffing that initial group of agents. Another thing we do at TOG is we invite and encourage all of our client partners to take part in that recruitment process. Especially for that initial class, it's just so important that you align with the outsourcer on the agent profile that's going to be representing your brand.
Yeah.
And then once you have the team in place, so you have the right agents, you have your customers buy-in on the agents that are going to be representing their brand, then it's working together, to provide that team with the support and the development that they're going to need to perform at a high level. It requires the right processes to be in place. It requires the right technology for them to deliver that high quality customer service. The staff at the outsourcer needs to be able to support and manage the team as the client staff would. You got to develop that tribal knowledge, and you do that through different sessions. Like you have a regular cadence of calibration sessions where you're talking about phone calls and the experience that's being delivered. You have performance reviews that are going to require and encourage communication about key drivers to KPIs and action plans that need to put in place to improve those KPIs. Those meetings have to take place, and the client that's outsourcing has to invest the time early on into those processes. And when it happens, it's a special thing. And it really allows the outsourcer to take care of customer service and the business to really hone in on their core competencies and just grow the heck, out of their company.
Yeah. And we were talking prior to this interview, and I remember asking about how you guys got started in your origin story. It's a pretty unique origin story. Actually, I'd love for you to share with the audience, because it's a testament to kind of getting started for the right reason in the right way, not just launching a business for the sake of a business. I'd love for you to share that.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I'd love to. It is a great story. I mentioned our 103-year-old publicly traded company, parent company, and our genesis as a BPO really grew from their need, back in 2005 to find a higher performing and cost-effective solution in support of their apparel customers. And how we did that was by creating, a captive center in El Salvador where we supported things like customer service, telesales, and other back office functions. And in the beginning, like you mentioned, there was a lot of skepticism that we needed to overcome with superior stakeholders in Florida. And we accomplished that by the things I mentioned before, 100% transparency. Our people are your people. Collaboration on best practices and ways to overcome pain points with their customers. Better ways to sell uniforms to hotel chains. That's what we were selling back then. And then ultimately better performance. And what we were able to accomplish from 2005 to 2008 was a true extension of Superior's Florida office and their brand in our contact center in El Salvador. A true partnership that I keep talking about.
Yeah.
And that we've been able to now replicate that with our external partners.
And so you mentioned earlier this champion challenger situation, and I gathered what you were getting at with it, but just for benefit of our audience, sometimes people aren't familiar with like what a champion challenger type situation is. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's a good question. So if I'm a company and I'm looking, I have either my own in-house badged employee call center, or I'm using an outsourcer that's the incumbent. And I just want to see if I'm getting the best service, if they're doing the best job for our customers possible. I'm going to bring on another partner to compete head to head. And we call it a champion challenger, the champion being the incumbent, the challenger being the new outsourced partner that's coming into the engagement. As a company, you want to provide both with the same training, the same support, so that they can really compete on an apples to apples basis. And then you let the companies take over. And you see all these other things that I'm talking about, the collaboration, the transparency, the technology that they bring, the ancillary support areas. You really see who's focusing on what's important and who can raise the bar.
Yeah.
And then in our case, what happened a lot of times, we've been very fortunate, is the challenger becomes the champion, and you earn more and more of that business. That's the ultimate goal.
Have you ever been challenged by another company?
We've been challenged. Like I said, it's a smart thing to do. I would
Yeah,
never, it's something that I couldn't blame a customer for wanting to do.
yeah,
Again,
sure.
it forced everyone to raise the bar, right?
Yeah.
And when you do that, the companies and their customers win.
Well, and it's easy, to be like, well, maybe, this we could do better on this cost, or maybe there's a couple things here, and they realize like, hey, look, we've got a great solution already. Brought in this challenger, didn't fare as well as our current champion, and we'll keep them rolling here. Can you do me a favor though? Can you go in and challenge the Comcast customer care people and fix that situation?
I would love to. I'm going to give you our contact information.
Oh my
I think at
gosh.
the end of this. So if you could pass someone there our way, that'd be great.
I'd love to see that. That would change the world. That's all we're trying to do here is make things better for everybody. So, those that are considering about to make this leap, how would what's a good starting point? Tell us, our audience a little bit how they would even reach out to you guys maybe to start a conversation.
Yeah, so I think the first place would be to go to our website, theofficegurus.com. Check us out, get a feel. Really, and if you really want to get a feel for our environment and our culture, click on our careers page. Click on the things that we do to attract talent. One of the things that we promised ourselves when we decided to take this show on the road, start offering our services to external clients, is that we were going to make our employees our number one priority. We believe that if we gave our employees an experience that they couldn't find anywhere else, then they'd give our clients an experience they couldn't find anywhere else either. And we're going on 14 years where we work, hard every day to deliver on that promise. So I'd check out our careers page so you can get a feel for our people. And then when you go there, you can click on the learn more, tell us a little bit more about the opportunity, and then we'll reach out. Or you can email us directly at learnmore@theofficegurus.com.
That's awesome. I'm telling you, for anybody that's considering doing this or has thought about it or is eyeing it for some of their plans for 2023 and beyond, absolutely worth looking into. I know, talked to a couple people who've worked with you guys before, all really great remarks. That's why we wanted to have this conversation with you to help educate our audience. And then just overall, it's just such an important thing for the future of your business. If you can use your internal team either to help with that second level or to help with, initial triage or whatever it may be, and then have a great partner that you can trust to get that job done, then I think that's well worth it. Dominic, before we depart, any final words of advice for our audience?
Yeah, I would say just one thing, especially for this industry. We've talked a lot about customer service, but there's also a lot of opportunities to increase revenue, top line revenue with sales.
Hmm.
In the subscription space, it's all about customer retention. So there's a lot of programs that we've run and built, for partners of ours in this space, like win back, retention, things like that. So customer service is huge. But then if you can create some type of top line revenue generating program on top of it, that's always a big win too.
Yeah, so that's an extremely important point, because if you're somebody saying like, "Oh, we don't get enough maybe inbound customer service right now to make sense to make it outsource," well, there's ways to supplement some of that and say, but that win back, absolutely enormous opportunity out
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
Because that's what we talk about a lot. If you build a good brand and you build a good relationship with your customers and you engage them and you enrich their lives and you continue to build that going forward, just because they cancel doesn't mean they're leaving forever. Maybe they took a break or paused for a moment and they're willing to come back. You hit them at the right time with the right offer, the right, jogging their memory. It's a great way for them to come back. So it's really good to know. And certainly I would assume there's more information on that type of stuff on your website as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And technology you use for that, that's a big channel for our speech analytics program, is to figure out why people are canceling,
Yeah.
and then create, a good story to tell them to bring them back. A lot of times they might not be aware of functionality like pause, like you mentioned, that a lot of subscription companies offer, so they feel like they have to cancel because they're going on vacation or there's been upgrades made over time. It all creates a really great story for those win back campaigns to bring those customers back and then keep them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Dominic, this is an amazing interview. I love all this information because it's so beneficial to our audience, and there's so many opportunities for them to continue to grow and look at some different ways of engaging customer service, win back, you name it. And so, If you like this episode today, please make sure you hit a like or follow button, whatever is nearest to you, subscribe. If you have an experience and a great experience with customer care, drop it in the comments. We always love hearing about those things, love having those conversations. Or if you're looking for a partner to lead to success, definitely check out the Office Gurus. They're awesome out there. Dominic, thank you so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Paul. It was great.
All right, we'll see you guys in the next episode here from SUBTA Studios. Thanks for tuning in.